Okay, so this is the official good afternoon now. Now we've got all the housekeeping out of the way. So it's my pleasure to welcome you today. My name is Michelle Williams and I am the Major Gifts Manager for Sense. So in terms of our audio describing, I'm a young-ish lady with shoulder length dark hair, which I'm wearing down. I'm sat in my kitchen in Birmingham. I'm glad the screen is this way and you can't see the dirty cockery that I can see in my peripheral. I've got a white background wall with a fabulous painting of Oxford, an island above me. I'm wearing, specially for the occasion, a floral green dress. And of course, I had to have something green at the side of me, so I have my festive little green Christmas tree. We're absolutely delighted that you've joined us for what we hope will be an interesting and an inspiring hour on all things gardening and green spaces. We'll hear more about horticultural therapy with Thrive, very innovative ways of connecting with plants with Justin Wiggin, and then breaking down barriers to green spaces and gardening, and also recognising the importance of connection with gardens for our well-being by the fabulous Mark Lane. Thank you goes out to all of our presenters for taking their time, giving us their time today. And to help ensure the smooth running of our presentations, if there's ever such a thing, we'll be inviting you to ask questions at the end of everybody's presentations. But if you're like me and you have questions pop up in your mind as you're running along, feel free to put them in the chat box and we'll make sure that we sift through them and we can find them at the end. So for anyone who is here from a gardening perspective and who doesn't necessarily know Sense, we're a national charity for everyone living with complex disabilities, including those who are deafblind. Sense is here to help people communicate and experience the world. And we believe that no one, no matter how complex their disabilities, should be isolated, left out, or unable to fulfill their potential. So we support people to feel connected and valued, and we support children, young people, adults, both in their home and through the community, in their education, their transition to adulthood, and through holidays, arts, sports, and probably most aptly for today, wellbeing sessions and programs. I'm going to obviously talk about Birmingham because that's where I am, but it's also our flagship centre, Touch Base Pairs, situated, for those who know the area, in Selly Oak. It's a dedicated space for arts, performance, sports, and employment programs. And it's a fabulous, accessible, multi-purpose venue for the West Midlands. If you haven't been and you live nearby, please do come and visit us when restrictions are eased, because it's a great place to come to. Got many varied services there, from our social care, the college, and it's a real vibrant community space through our community library and our pop-up cafe. So why a Sense talking about green spaces and gardening? It's not just an individual passion of mine. There is a real reason for it. A bit like everyone over the last few years and several dreaded lockdowns later, I think we've come to appreciate more deeply the importance of green spaces for maybe our own well-being. And we've had more time to dabble, however successfully, with gardening. Might have even got really adventurous and grown some veg. We might be more conscious of the green spaces through staycations or those much longed walks and needing to get out of the house. Maybe we've explored new areas within our own location that we didn't know about. We can't help but knowing everything that's happened recently around climate change. We might have more of a desire to do things in our local space to protect those important green areas. Sensory outdoor spaces have always been an important element of support that we offer at Sense, whether it's been through stimulating senses through touch and smell, connecting with nature, or community green spaces that are near our centres or our homes. But over the past few years, we've developed different ways to involve the people that we support. We've developed sensory walks toolkits and partnered with the audience survey. We've created, wait for it, symphonies with plants, which you'll hear about more later. But we're continually looking to push forward innovation and break down barriers to access. And that's achieved through our partnerships. We want to create more opportunities for the people we support to take an active role in not just gardening, but creating outdoor sensory spaces that can be used and enjoyed by the whole community, and bringing community together. Nature and gardens are one of those areas that really can do that, really can bring about those connections. That sense, personally, we really want to develop an inspiring and fully accessible urban community garden for our sense touch-based pairs. We have a fabulous centre, and we want to try and replicate that in the outdoor surroundings around it. It's a great way for the people that we work with, people with complex disabilities, and the local community to connect through that shared love of nature, and in a fully inclusive way that will have long-term social and environmental impacts, so everybody wins. We want the garden to really capture the spirit of our community. And when I talk about our community, I mean that whole bringing together community. And that's why we're really keen to develop our own understanding as an organisation of what makes accessible spaces, but also to learn from the people around us. And that's why we've invited you along to come and join us on this journey. Whereas we're not the experts ourselves, but we want to work with people and share all those expert experiences and our own skill sets. So you've heard me talking for far too long now. So I'm going to do the comfortable bit now, where I can introduce somebody else, and then I can take a step back and breathe. So I'd now like to introduce Stephanie Tyrrell, who is our Sense National Arts Manager, and Alexander Bailey from horticultural charity Thrive, who'll be talking about horticultural therapy. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. Michelle, thank you so much for that brilliant introduction. Just to do a little bit of auto description for myself. So I'm a white female with short blonde hair. I'm also sat in my lounge in Brum. I've got some shelves behind me with a light on in the background. I'm wearing quite a thick scarf because it's pretty cold, and I have got a money plant behind me, as this is a gardening event. So that's me. Alex, do you want to just auto describe yourself, because it's going to be our two voices for this next little bit?
Yes, definitely. So my auto description is that I'd like to say youngish, but probably not that young now. Female with long dark hair. I'm sitting in my garden room at home in Moseley, round the corner from the Thrive Centre. I've got a big garden window looking out onto my winter garden, and I've got my Christmas tree up already.
That's fab. Thank you, Alex. So we are, as Michelle has said, delighted that everybody is with us on this journey today. And we're super delighted to have each of these partners talking to us, and we'll be hearing more from Thrive in a moment, who you are, what's your involvement with the programme. But the three, I just wanted to add that the three main partners that we're hearing from today with Thrive, with the artist Justin Wiggin, and of course with the designer Mark Lane, these partners each bring a invaluable amount of wealth and expertise and innovation to the projects that we're delivering at Sense. And we're always thinking about that connection and communication for the people we support with, particularly about enriching the lives of people with complex disabilities around gardening and horticulture. And so having each of these experts with us, we truly believe that we're creating that innovation in practice and something that will create a legacy from years to come. So just wanted to share a little bit more about sort of why we have those different partners with us. But that's enough from me. So Alex, could you just share with us who you are, who is Thrive, what do you do, and what's your involvement with Sense so far?
Yes, definitely. So I'm the Client and Garden Manager in Kings Heath Park. I work at Thrive, and that's a national charity that delivers social and therapeutic horticulture to a whole range of clients. We use gardening to bring back positive changes in the lives of people living with disability or ill health, or who are isolated, disadvantaged or vulnerable. As I say, we've got a site in Kings Heath Park, and we've got a site in Battersea Park, and one in Reading. We're really happy to be working with Sense touch-based pairs to hopefully deliver social and therapeutic horticulture sessions to engage people at their centre at touch-based pairs. I'm personally really excited about this project because I've obviously got a passion for horticulture, but also I know how much green care can bring to clients, families and carers, and the community as a whole. We're really looking forward to helping Sense develop their wonderful outdoor space so we can deliver green care to everyone and get everyone engaged in it. I think it'll be a definite advantage to all their clients and service users. Thrive are dedicated and passionate about the health benefits of gardening, horticulture, and spending time in nature. Our aim is to ensure that people with varying needs have the opportunity to access therapeutic gardening, horticultural programs, and the outdoor space wherever they live, whether they've got a huge garden, a balcony, or a window box. We're actively encouraged to use gardening as part of our personal health and well-being management. Thrive personally has kind of 40 years experience on the approach of social and therapeutic horticulture, where we use trained horticulturalists to work with the plants and the environment and engage clients to help improve individuals' physiological health, communication, and thinking skills. Hopefully, one of the positive things that's come out of the pandemic is the spotlight has been highlighted on our natural environment, appreciating our outdoor surroundings, and being more conscious of what we've got and what we can make the most of. We're really excited to be working with the wonderful Mark Lane, who will be developing the garden at Touch-Based Pairs, and their outdoor space. We're looking forward to consulting with him, seeing how we can adapt the space that you've got, the design, to maximise the usability for the whole range of your clients, so you've got access for all. We've made several adaptations in our TV gardens at Thrive, so hopefully we can assist with delivering the right space for your clients.
Alex, could you go into that just a little bit about what are the considerations when making your workshops accessible for people with complex disabilities? What are some of the considerations that you plan for to enable everybody to take part?
Well, obviously we've got accessibility, making sure everyone's included in the group. So whether they are on height adjustable wheelchairs or they've got different heights, maybe workbenches, different raised beds or assisted work areas where there's support for the core frame. We do a lot of sensory work. Obviously, whether that's trying to use as many of the sensors as we can, whether it's using succulents and squishing the leaves or using our sense of smell. We try and do it so we include everyone in the group, and hopefully with confidence and developing the different sensors, we can make everyone have a real all-round learning experience. And get a bit dirty.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting your hands dirty is a really important part of that. And I know I've mentioned it to you before, but just when we've been building this relationship with Thrive the past year, and we went down to visit the TV gardens at Kings Heath Park in Birmingham. And when we were touring around the gardens, you had a volunteer group in there that morning. And it was brilliant to see in action about the number of diverse people that were engaged in that project and had a real ownership of what they were doing. And that empowerment through horticulture is something that this event really is all about, and how we create that access. And one of the things that really got me was that you had all of your tools lined up and put out at varying heights, so all access needs could reach independently for the different tools that you'd be using in the garden. And your watering can display, I was just got really excited about, which isn't something I would have thought of before, but those details are so important for the work that we're doing. So it was wonderful to see.
And I think it's really important to know that people may have quite set ideas of what gardening is or horticulture, or it might not be for them, but there's a whole spectrum of different activities and things that can engage people and spark an interest that we can discover over our relationship with Sense. And we've found different ways of kind of working together and finding out what individuals want out of a group, maybe doing some teamwork. There's all the major lots of different elements that can be brought into it. So whereas people might not traditionally think they want to be a gardener or want to get a bit muddy or grow anything, the range of activities we can do, from wildlife to seasonal planting and bulb planting to propagation to garden designing and, you know, playing about with colours and smells, and there's a whole range of exciting things that I can't wait to bring to Sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Alex. It was really lovely to. Before we move on to the next speaker, anything else that you just wanted to wrap up with?
Not really, apart from I'm really excited to come. It was lovely to come and meet some of your clients the other day. So hopefully we can work and find out the best way of delivering, you know, a whole range of activities and get everyone into green care and enjoying the space that they've got.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Alex. Lovely for you to share the organisations and your aims and ambitions for the programme. So that was brilliant. Thank you so much. And I'm right on time moving to the next speaker, which is always good. So can we bring up now, please, Justin? There he is. Hello, Justin. So just for the benefit of everybody on the Zoom call, please can you auto-describe yourself and your surrounding?
Of course, Steph. I'm Justin Wigan. I'm a white 50-year-old bearded male. I'm sat in my bedroom, which is a makeshift office. Next to me is a plant that has some white small stickers on it. I'm wearing a thin headband, not as a fashion statement, but next to me on my right, there is a screen and it's reading my brainwaves as we do the activity today.
Brilliant. Okay, I look forward to knowing more about that. Thank you so much, Justin. So just to share with everybody here today, so Justin has worked with Sense on a number of different programmes in the past, and Justin can explain a little bit about his practice. But it's through Justin's model, which is called Internal Garden, that we've been piloting a few different programmes before, and we have previously worked, we have delivered Internal Garden at Sense with Kew Gardens a few years back and Birmingham Botanical Gardens. And I won't go into it too much now because that's why Justin's here. But the thing for us that really excited us about this model that Justin has created is the use of technology, innovation, and the way that it connects everybody to nature and green spaces. And as he describes the model, this might be something that's completely new to you as an audience member and you might not have experienced before. So it's a real delight to have Justin here to share that with you. But the thing for Sense as an organisation in this model is that access and equality of connection and engagement. And this is an area that we want to grow nationally. We're in discussions with the National Trust as well to have internal garden based within their gardens and locations to explore nature, access and heritage. But yeah, so just wanted to kind of give you some of the backstory of this before I hand over to Justin. So I'm really excited by the opportunity for you to be here and to explain what that process is. So for Justin, for people who've never ever heard of internal garden or your work before, please could you give them an intro into what the concept is?
Of course I can, Steph. So internal garden is a very simple idea. It allows individuals to connect with plants in a auditory and physical way. So I have a device which can read energy levels from plants and trees. Now, anything that's alive gives off energy, and we can turn this energy into sound. So I'll give you an example in a minute. What we can also do is turn the signal into a feeling. Now, we've been working with this company called Subpack, and this looks like a really thin backpack. It's black. It looks like something Batman would wear on a night out. And you could plug this into the plant and into the device. And when the plant makes a sound, you can also feel the vibrations that it produces. In essence, I can give people a massage by a singing plant. Now that might sound quite strange on a Friday afternoon, but it works and it's very popular. And we've seen some incredible responses from people who maybe have not had the opportunity to engage and access green spaces in nature in such a way. So I'll give you a little demonstration first of how a plant makes a sound. So I'm just going to switch my software on. So there's two of these tiny little stickers. And these tiny stickers are similar in what they would put on an athlete to measure muscle resistance. But what we can do is that when we put them on a plant, we can measure the signals that's inside the plant. Now, a plant has lots of different signals inside it, where it's inside a house, whether it's outside a house, whether it's thirsty, whether it's nighttime, no signal's ever the same. It's kind of like a language that it has inside. What this allows us to do is to peer internally into the plant. So I'm going to pop this on here. If you give me a thumbs up whether you can hear the music the plant's playing. Now there's a lot of activity coming out of this plant right now. I think it's happy. So if I take this off, excuse me. And there's no signal because it was reading the signals between the leaves. Now, what's interesting about what we can do next is that we can create interspecies music by adding my biometric signals and the plants together. So if I just pop this on my wrist, I'm putting a sticker on my wrist there. Now, when I interact with the plant, I can use the plant as a musical instrument. And I can also engage with the roots in the plant. So if I was wearing this backpack, every time I was triggering the touch with the plant, I'd be able to feel them vibrations inside my body. What's interesting about this is how it connects people on a physical level with nature. So maybe there's been access problems beforehand of maybe sight or even hearing impairment. But what this allows is individuals to explore by touch the plant life and world around them. And one of the things that we were interested in was curating a green space made purely from this experience. Now imagine if you had young people interested in green space and wanted to create a green space purely on how something felt good for them. So we tried it out a little bit at Birmingham Botanical Gardens, where we had individuals interacting with plants. And me and Steph had this conversation about, wouldn't it be great actually to create green space based upon this positive feeling towards that felt good for me, that resonated with me. Because plants all have different signals and different kind of data inside them. Some plants are really easy to work with. So this, for example, this is a really easy plant to work with. As you can hear, and some are more difficult. Cactuses are like divas. They will not send a signal out for a long time until you've paid them a lot of attention. So we've been learning about how all these different plants have a different personality. And we're drawn to these different personalities. So this gives us a chance, I think, to produce something unique. It's looking at green space, accessibility, technology, and how we can use them three things together to explore renewed mental health within a green space. Now, there's been lots of talk about climate change. There's been lots of talk about renewable green energy. And I think one thing that we need to think about, and Mark touched on it before, is this next generation of people who are going to take over the planet, the ones that are going to be the gardeners for the future. If we can make them connect on a deeper level in terms of sight, sound, touch, and smell, then I think we kind of like we've helped towards that crisis which is looming, because we're not all going to be there at that time. And I think through things like this, through interventions like this, then we're looking at future-proofing green space, regardless of ability or disability, because what we do with Eternal Garden allows people have a common playing ground for accessing green space in that way. We'll just have a little bit of this here. And also, while the plant's been playing, my brainwaves here have been accessed. So the idea in the future for me is that turning my brainwaves into music as well. So when the plant plays music, my brain can also jam along with the plant without any musical instruments. Imagine that. Imagine walking around a garden, a musical sonic garden where the plants are playing, the flowers are playing. You just put on your headband and you could jam with the flowers. And also our next steps is to transform this backpack into something that you could wear in green spaces that has all the technology inbuilt. Now, at the moment, we have 3 or 4 different devices here to allow this to happen. But at the moment, we're researching how we can put everything into one backpack that you just put on and engage with nature in this unique way. Thank you.
Justin, that's absolutely fabulous. I've never been upstaged by a plant before, I don't think, but I mean, how can you follow that? It's absolutely fantastic. There were some really great comments in the chat box that I just wanted to pick up. One was that the takeaway from today is cactuses are divas. Then we obviously had a group who were cactus lovers who just wouldn't stand for that. They wouldn't believe that that was such a thing. But I think in terms of innovation and breaking grounds in accessibility and using technology in ways that make sure everybody, as you say, a level playing field and connecting in nature in such a way. I mean, I hope that we have that we can walk around a garden and play music and symphonies together. I mean, that's just fantastic. And maybe if we had things like that, more people would be involved and have that love of gardening and want to protect those green spaces. So something really exciting to look forward to in our garden development. We really value the partnerships with you, Justin, and with Thrive. And I know that that's something we're really keen to carry on with. We have populated the chat box with links to both your websites, and I'm sure you're more than happy for people to get in contact for any ideas or questions that they have in the future or opportunities to work with you. Sense has absolutely loved working with you, and we're so grateful to have you here today with us.
Thank you.
It's a hard act to follow, but I'm going to have a go at introducing our next guest, Mark Lane. He's been designing and creating gardens and landscapes both nationally and internationally for 20 years. You may know him better from things like BBC This Morning Live, Gardening Time, where he's been offering help to many a novice and a seasoned gardener through his published writings, his broadcasts and fabulous talks on accessible garden design. There are many awards and accolades, and it's always hard when you're trying to introduce somebody about which things to pick out, but the most recent being Most Innovative Landscape Designer UK 2021, Best Landscape and Garden Design Practice UK 2021, Best Residential Garden Design. So I think we're safe in expert hands here when we're talking about accessible and garden design. And Mark, we're absolutely delighted to have you for our event today, and even more delighted that we've started working with you, for bringing in all these elements of the horticultural therapy and internal gardens, and really bringing that with your expertise in creating accessible spaces. So we're really grateful to have you here. And Mark's going to share a presentation on your screens. If you double click on the icons once he's shared it on the corner and choose side by side, you'll still be able to see the interpreter and Mark presenting. So Mark, over to you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Just as a quick audio description, I am a 50-ish man with short dark hair. I'm wearing a headpiece. I've got a green shirt on, a green scarf with blue and white squares on it. I've got an orange blind to my right hand side, and a lovely Alocasia plant, which is this subtropical plant with big drooping leaves. And there's lots of lights flashing on in the background, but that's all the techie stuff that's working in my studio, which I have no idea what it's doing, but it's working. It's magic. So I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Fingers crossed this all works. So can we now all see this? Can we put fingers up if we can, thumbs up if we can see that? Brilliant, cool. So welcome to Accessibility and Azeleas, creating sensory and accessible gardens with me, Mark Lane, and of course, Sense, on this special day, which of course is the International Day for Persons with Disabilities. I just wanted to sort of just do a little bit, I know Michelle gave me a very lovely introduction, but I just wanted to just add a couple of things to that. I've also been shortlisted for Celebrity of the Year 2021 in the National Diversity Awards. I'm a disability advocate, and I work with many charities, so Core Landscapes, Thrive being one of them, Groundwork, Green Fingers, Leonard Cheshire, Gardening with Disabilities Trust, the Melanoma Fund, the British Association of Landscape Industries, and of course, Sense. My book, Royal Gardens of the World, came out during lockdown, and thankfully is doing very, very well. So we're very pleased with that. And of course, you do see me on the telly, and you can read about my gardening and gardening tips in various publications. So why are we here? Well, we are here. I had the great pleasure of going along to Touch Base Pairs, seeing the incredible building, seeing the incredible services that they offer, and also seeing this green space. And there's a very large patio that extends, I suppose the best way of describing it, or hard standing, that extends out from the building. And then you get a lot of greenery. And then there's sort of like these little pockets around the building as well, where there's these tiny little green spaces. And the whole idea is we want to link all these spaces up and, of course, make it accessible to everybody and be a real wonderful sensory experience. So I came up with an initial design, which was something along these lines. And this was just to give an idea, a feeling, the sort of planting that we could incorporate into these spaces. Really textural stuff, really beautiful colors, scent, of course, shade as well from trees, different textures underfoot as well. And then there'd also be different areas. So there'd be different areas maybe for productive growing. So things like veggies and fruit. You know, you might just want to sit in the garden. So therefore just some benches or some spaces for wheelchairs to sit. So it's about building up this huge landscape that's already there, but right in the center of Birmingham. And I think that's what's really exciting about it, is the fact that this will be a sort of a pioneering, hopefully a pioneering design, which is accessibility led. Right from the start, always thought about it by bringing in the community and by bringing in everyone as well who's involved with it. So I just wanted to do a quick thing why I'm grateful that I'm working with Sense, and that's that as obviously I'm the first landscape designer in a wheelchair, which I still find shocking to this day. And that sort of gives me a bit of a unique perspective when it comes to designing these outdoor spaces for communities for disabled people. And it's brilliant working with Sense on their sensory community and project at their flagship building, which will act as this nature hub. And as I said, a pioneering example of disabled-led design. I'm really fascinated also by the internal garden project. I had to go with it. It was brilliant fun. I wore the old Batman suit, and it was astonishing to see how you can interact with those plants. I've got to incorporate that into the garden as well. But working in collaboration with different community groups, I will design and create a garden based on ideas and existing green spaces found in Birmingham and the Selly Oak area by developing the current underused outside spaces and increase physical activity through gardening activities, and also improve mental health and promote relaxation and increase access to fresh foods. Now, I have a deep respect for the natural world, and I think, you know, as gardeners, we have this responsibility to the earth as well. And all my designs, no matter what I do, they create biodiversity, they conserve habitats in natural and sustainable ways, and they form a real sense of place, but also space. So it's going to be a garden for people with complex disabilities, co-made and designed by the people Sense support. The garden will be a cutting edge design, and it will use access as a form of inspiration. I just wanted to show you a few sort of very smaller projects that we've done, which are based on sensory ideas. You can see here just nice long tunnels that people can go under. Obviously, climbers will be there. There's lovely textural plants, places to sit, quieter places to go. Or it could be a community gardens. We've got community gardens here where it was right by the side of a railway, and it was this old forgotten piece of land. And we introduced these different layers, different levels of beds. There's sort of some steps where people could sit as well, and also do some little performances if they wanted to. And what you can't see is then there's also a little woodland and a nature walk, and then a nice sort of seating zone as well. This was a physic garden, but a woodland physic garden in London. And the whole idea there was so that young children in particular could go along and really sort of engage with nature as well as the wildlife. This is one that's we're currently is just about to be started work on, which is at Derriford Hospital, which is an ICU hospital garden, which is one of the first in the UK. And we obviously had to think about the transition from hospital clean environment to outside environments where, you know, leaves might fall onto beds or patients might want to get their hands dirty. So the big sort of wooden structure you can see on the left-hand side is this transition building, which the architect has designed. But the whole idea is that when patients are in ICU for very long periods of time, they get a sense of delusion, and because they don't know what day it is, they don't know whether it's nighttime, you know, whether it's bright light, dark light. So being able to get outside, even if it's just to lie there or to sit there, is going to make a huge difference. And it's also going to be a place for rehabilitation as well. So where do you start? Well, as a garden designer, I love the process of putting together ideas, drawing up concepts, creating planting plans, and selecting materials to use. And if you love gardening, but your body is starting to ache a little bit, you know, aching in those places which never ached before, or you're finding that you might need to use a walking stick or a walking frame, or perhaps even a wheelchair, then, you know, it shouldn't be a nightmare. It should still be a wonderful pastime. So with some planning and by taking your time, you can create the outdoor space of your dreams. And remember that every garden is a reflection of that person's personality. And that's what I love about it, because every garden is completely different. Now, all the photos, I will state, that you'll see here are all from my garden. Which is my sort of playing field, where I sort of, you know, it's also my sweetie shop, where I can sort of play with textures, play with plants, play with color, etc. So if I told you that there is an activity that you can do that gives you a full body and mind workout every time you do it, I'm certain you'd probably jump at it. And of course, no surprise, that is gardening. Whether it's inside or outside, it's good for relaxation, exercise, solace, and recovery, and is an important activity that can be done at any age and throughout our lives. It can be active, i.e. physically gardening, or it can be passive, you know, where you just sit back, maybe with a gin and tonic, and enjoying your garden. But gardening can be also a solitary state of thing to do, or it can be a community. And that's what's so great about gardens, is that it can be this place of solace, quiet reflection, or it can be a great place and a social place and a fun place to be. And loneliness doesn't just affect the elderly. Evidence has shown that isolation and loneliness is higher among 20 and 30-year-olds. But being surrounded by greenery, perhaps with houseplants or a garden or just a patio filled with flowers and edibles, has, according to the King's Fund, been linked to long-term reductions in overall reported health problems, including heart disease, cancer, and musculoskeletal conditions. Gardening, green spaces, and being outdoors also help reduce levels of obesity. They increase physical activity and improve mental health. Now, the word garden makes us think of, you know, flower-filled borders, containers over brimming with colourful bedding plants, a lawn, maybe a shed, you know, used for relaxation as well as recreation. And according to the UN, currently 54% of the world's population live in urban areas, but by 2030, 70% of the world's population will be living in cities. Outdoor spaces are getting smaller, and with more of us living in apartments, retirement villages, social housing and townhouses, with small or no outdoor space, it makes sense to grow as much as you possibly can, both indoors and outdoors. The impact of green spaces throughout childhood is significant, and exposure to green spaces is comparable to family history and parental age when predicting mental health outcomes. Looking and caring at greenery and living plants helps protect against mood disorders, depression, neurotic behavior, and stress-related issues. Research also reveals that longer exposure to green spaces has greater mental health benefits. Living in cities has been found by NASA Earth Observatory to increase neural activity, which can be linked to higher levels of stress. Fundamentally, plants take carbon dioxide, combine it with water and light, and produce clean oxygen through a process called photosynthesis. Plants can improve your mood, reduce fatigue, lower stress and anxiety. The University of Sydney reported a 30% reduction in tension and anxiety, a 58% drop in depression, and a 4.4% decrease in anger and hostility just by introducing plants and houseplants. What is biophilia? This is a term that's sort of been thrown around quite a bit. Well, it's one of the main pieces of theory that we often refer to when considering the positive effect that nature has on our cells. It was first coined in 1973 by Erich Fromm and became more popular in a paper that a Harvard scientist named E.O. Wilson did in 1984. And it says peaceful or nurturing elements of nature help us regain equanimity, cognitive clarity, empathy, and hope. In other words, nature helps us regain composure, calmness, clarity of thought, and helps us regain our empathy and hope. Even more simply put, we evolved in nature, so we are evolutionarily linked to nature and its effect on us. There is an innately emotional connection of human beings to other living things. We've seen that with the plant that Justin just showed us. And biophilia is a theory that helps us to understand how people are motivated to interact with nature and gain its healing benefits. There's also the restorative effect of nature. So restoration is an idea that we're healed or recover after spending time in nature. We live in a modern world where we are constantly bombarded with information and imagery, which is mentally draining. So when we spend time outdoors, we can really notice how much better we feel. And I must just state that isn't my garden, that's a garden I designed for someone else. Also, there's a thing called stress recovery theory. In 1991, Roger Ulrich, Professor of Architecture at the Center for Healthcare and Building Research in Sweden, investigated the physiological benefits of natural environments and devised the stress recovery theory. And stress recovery involves the recovery from excessively arousing or stressful states, or recovery from understimulation and recovery from anxiety. In Japan in 2011, Yoshifumo Miyazaki, a physical anthropologist, compared the effect of a leisurely urban walk versus forest bathing, known as Shinrin-yoku, to open the sense to the woods. Forest walks deliver a 12% decrease in cortisol levels, the stress hormone, 7% decrease in sympathetic nerve activity, our fight or flight response, and a 1.4 decrease in blood pressure and a 6% decrease in heart rate. It's therefore easy to see the potential health benefits of engaging in time in nature. So accessibility. Now, in my opinion, every garden is a sensory garden and a therapeutic garden, whether it's a few pots outside your back door or a rolling estate, a wild space, or a manicured garden. Interestingly, following a UK legal case in 2008, the High Court called on the Oxford English Dictionary definition of an English country garden to be changed so that wild and uncultivated land can be regarded in law as a garden. The High Court Lord Justice stated the current definition is clearly now too narrow, as the current fashion for wild gardens and meadow areas amply demonstrates. The Americans coined the phrase universal design, whereas in the UK, we use the term inclusive design or accessible design. Now, for me, a wheelchair user and a garden designer, I'm more interested in getting to know the space and the client's requirements and dropping labels wherever we can, and also all those isms that sort of fly around. Now, this may sound rather basic and, garden design stage 1, but if we think of outdoor spaces as places for health and well-being, to recharge our batteries, to help reduce anxiety and depression, or to improve cognitive function, It's imperative to get inside the head of the clients and attempt to see the world through their eyes. Now, this can sometimes be really difficult, but with continued prodding, inquisitive questions, we can find out a lot about the individual without getting too personal, or even a group without getting too personal, and how they're going to use the space in question. We can also learn a lot from what they don't say. Now, designing gardens or landscapes for accessibility should really be about designing for inclusivity, so that anyone can enjoy the space no matter their level of ability, impairment, or disability. The aim should always be to provide inclusive design and through that achieve social inclusion. Inclusive design is also not a fixed set of design criteria, but an evolving attitude that results in aesthetically pleasing and functional environments that can be used by everyone. For example, we are all getting older, therefore a garden needs to evolve with our changing conditions or impairments that we may have in older age. The term disability is broad and includes people with physical, sensory, or mental impairment, and it's estimated that between 12 and 13, even 15% of the population have some degree of impairment. While many aspects of design will be helpful to all or most disabled people, there are also specific design considerations people need to take into account for particular kinds of impairment. It's therefore essential to consider the individual's own impairment or disability, their requirements, the needs and aspirations, just as you would for any other design. You need to understand the disability or impairment, whether physical, sensory, or mental. You need to ask questions about, say, the weight of the wheelchair, its size, the height of the foot plates and knee heights, eye height, on average anywhere between 960 mil and 1315 mil. Seat heights, the width of the tires, the size of the front wheels. How far can someone reach? Can they twist their torso or arms? Or are they restricted? Do they have difficulty with proprioception? Knowing that's where i.e. knowing where their limbs and body are in relation to the environment around them. Are they visually impaired or blind? The more questions, the better. This will build a complete picture. And remember that disabilities change as people get older, just as physical changes occur for ambulant people. So time also needs to be considered. Now, there are building regs and there is the Disability Discrimination Act. There's Part M in the building regulations, which only goes a little way to understanding designing accessible gardens, as it focuses on access to a building or access to somewhere and the use of buildings predominantly, while the Disability Discrimination Act of Parliament promotes minimum standards for people with disabilities, with an emphasis on reasonable adjustments. And that word reasonable can be interpreted in many different ways. Now, there's the Disability Rights Commission design principles. Now, the Disability Rights Commission puts 6 principles together, and I always say that these need to be considered whenever you're designing any space for inclusivity. So number 1, diversity and difference. Disabled people are not a homogeneous group. Everybody's different. Number 2, ease of use. No undue effort, discomfort, or loss of dignity should be experienced. 3, freedom of choice and access to mainstream activities. There should be an emphasis on independent access with support and assistance if required. 4, quality. Designs for disabled persons should, where possible, exceed minimum standards, be confident and well executed, and should be produced to a standard equal to that of any surrounding development. 5, legibility and predictability. Layouts need to be rationalized, and planting, furniture, materials, and finishes should be used carefully to remove the need for excessive text-based wayfinding devices. And 6, safety. Accessible gardens should be safe and inspire a sense of safety. Now, these 6 design principles, as I say, should be considered at every stage of designing, but especially so at the beginning with the development of the brief and site analysis. Functional and aesthetic considerations also need to be considered, monitored, and evaluated at every stage of the development. And as I said, minimum standards should be used to guarantee a baseline only. When designing a project where full inclusivity is paramount, all abilities, impairments, and disabilities need to be thought about. And that's quite a lot to think about. The variances in people's heights, age, if they are wheelchair users, use a cane or a frame, need assistance to the side, or maybe a guide dog or someone to support them as they walk. Are there noises that can affect orientation or be overwhelming? Are there sounds or images in close proximity that can be visually and auditory distracting? Do visual patterns need to be kept to a minimum or introduced to provoke distinct responses in the brains, especially with people living with autism? Are there going to be quiet refuge areas? Should signage always have a version in Braille? Will lighting blind or produce glare for someone in a wheelchair or walking? Will lights create shadows and silhouettes that could be overwhelming and foreboding? Now, these are just a few considerations, but they highlight the importance of thinking through every design feature and element and how they can be used by or may affect people with impairments or disabilities. There are some specifics for several design features, and I thought it would be quite good just to sort of highlight some of these. So when it comes to designing specific elements, dimensions are always key. To propel a manual wheelchair, for example, the ISO standard for wheelchairs, which is number ISO 7193, notes that a clearance of not less than 15 millimeters, preferably 100 millimeters on both sides, is required. Entry points need to have an accessible clear opening width of at least 1000 millimeters. Gates should not exceed 30 neurons, and gates should have clear visibility between 500 millimeters and 1500 millimeters above ground level. So often we see gates into gardens which are solid and you can't see through them. For someone who wants to, or someone who needs to be able to see through those gates, those visibility areas are essential. Handles. Oh.
I'm just going to interrupt you there only because we've reached 2 o'clock and I know that some people had an hour for lunch that they were giving us. So I just want to make sure I'm not responsible for anybody losing their job this Friday. I hate to interrupt you because it's I'm sure like everybody else, I'm absolutely engaged and enthralled in all elements of things you're talking about. But I just thought I'd better just alert people to the time just in case. I know that there's so much when it comes to designing of physical spaces, and we could be here all afternoon and probably still not have scratched the surface of it. But I know that there were some people who were really wanting to actually spend some time engaging with you and asking any questions as well. So I thought if I give people the time to do that, to start populating some questions the chat box while you're just finishing the next couple of slides perhaps, and then to make sure that nobody leaves hungry for information that they were desperate to ask you, Mark. So sorry everyone for me interrupting. I know we'd all rather hear from Mark. So if I allow you to do a few more slides, and people can start putting those questions in the question box.
Thanks, Michelle. So handles, latches, or other ironmongery should be located between 750 and 1000 millimeters above ground level, and should either be with a lever action or designed so that they can be operated by a single closed fist and not be cold to the touch. Gates and ironmongery need to contrast tonally with the surroundings. Turning spaces. Now, this is one of my bugbears whenever I go anywhere, for wheelchairs or for scooter users, to provide a full range of scooters and wheelchairs turning through 180 degrees, a length of 2,800 millimeters and a width of 2,200 millimeters are required. Pathways should also obviously be wide. Make your pathways wide. They need to be sufficient width with an appropriate surface, and where terrain mitigates any universal access, then alternative routes should be created. And real and potential hazards need to be eliminated. So for example, to turn 90 degrees, a manual wheelchair user requires a minimum space of 1200 millimeters by 1200 millimeters. And to turn through 180 or 360 degrees, a space of basically 2 meters is required. Also, there needs to be a distinction made between direct routes and meandering routes, possibly with different materials or color contrasts. For 2 wheelchair users to pass, a path should be 1800 to 200 millimeters wide. Now, if that's not possible, then a width of 1500 millimeters will work, but you'll need to have passing bays at every 50 meters on level ground. Drainage should always be positioned beyond the boundaries of the access routes. Slot drains can be used, but no wider than 13 millimeters. There should also be tapping edges to pathways, and textured materials should be used for the visually impaired and blind persons. Edging materials also help stop wheels of scooters and wheelchairs ending up in a flower bed. And all surfaces need to be firm, stable, non-slip in dry and wet conditions, and be obstacle free. Now, there is a thing about the R value, but I can leave that and you can then find out a little bit more about that, or you can get a copy of this presentation. Now, for changes in level, ramps are obviously an obvious choice. And for some ambulant people, a few easy-going steps will be more accessible than a ramp. Level pathways or ramps are ideal for wheelchair and scooter users, and they provide both, and you should provide both where possible. Now, Part M of those building regulations, they suggest that ramps for slopes with a minimum of 1 to 12, but this is often too steep for many users. And if I've got a backpack on me, which weighs quite a bit, a 1 in 12 is going to be awkward, and it could actually make me topple backwards. So ramps or slopes exceeding 1 to 20 need flat landings and provided at every 750 millimeters of any vertical climb. I can talk about steps and rises and noses, but again, you could find out a little bit more about this. If we go into sensory gardens, obviously what we want to do, we want to engage all the senses. So sight, vision, taste, gustatory, smell, olfactory, hearing, auditory, touch, tactile, body awareness, proprioception, balance, equilibrioception, heat, thermoception, and pain, nociception. Now, a lot of the time when we refer to therapeutic spaces or sensory gardens or environments for well-being, we focus on poor health, illness, debilitating conditions, and disabilities. How often do we consider people of sound body, mind, or spirit? Now, I believe labels and names can be too limiting. Gardens and nature are not exclusively restorative for a particular group of people. They have a therapeutic value for everyone. The design of a sensory garden may be thematic, laid out to stimulate individual senses at different times, or as a multi-sensory mixture. Journey through the senses by separating a garden into distinct sense zones, such as sight, smell, or taste might work. Or bring together and mix the different elements to engage multiple senses at once. And sensory gardens must have interest for 12 months of the year. Tune into the surroundings and connect with nature and notice the effect on your senses. If you take a deep breath and focus on, say, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, or 1 thing you can taste. When it comes to sight, you want to create a diverse mix of plant color, shape, size, texture, and pattern. Create areas with hot colors, reds, yellows, and orange to stimulate, or cooler colors like blues, whites, and pale yellows to calm and ease the body and mind. And a variety of architecture, height, shape, hues, and patterns can be created from different trees, shrubs, and climbers. Ornamental grasses and architectural seed heads add structure and movement. Leaves with striking designs and patterns will add drama. Mix up trailing, creeping, hanging, standing, big and miniature plant species. Add water in the form of a pond, a fountain, or a bird bath. Place seating in the garden to sit back, relax, and admire the natural surroundings. Smell. Floral fragrances are some of the great garden scents to stimulate the sense of smell. They enhance the sensory experience with a concoction of various aromatic plants, such as rose, jasmine, rosemary, or mint. Deliciously scented herbs are multisensory, as they are also stimulate taste, gustatory. But avoid too many scents in any one place, because that can create sensory overload. Sound. Create contrasting sounds. Use trickling water to stimulate hearing, or add waterfall or a fountain for a louder sound that is audible from different areas in the garden. Wind rustling through trees, bamboo, grasses, and foliage. The sound of birds and bees to create an aural landscape. Gravel or small stones will create contrasting sounds when walked upon. Touch. Use different surfaces and textures. Use contrasting elements that are hard, soft, smooth, rough, solid, and fluid. Rough seed heads, tree bark, grasses, and spongy mosses add to the sensory tactile delight. Place smooth pebbles against rough natural stone borders. Walls, sculpture, and other structures can stimulate the tactile sense, whether stone, brick, glass, or metal. And water features offer a refreshing contrast as the fluid water engages touch.
Mark, can I interrupt you? As much as I hate to, and I'm sure I'll be hated for interrupting you, I think we've reached a point where unfortunately we're going to have to interrupt and to offer the floor to some questions, but it's been absolutely fascinating listening to you. I've just had somebody message and say they have experience of garden design as a profession and studying it, and this was more in depth than some of the lectures they attended, so they've absolutely loved it. It's really appealed to all of us, and I know I've certainly been jotting down ideas and thoughts. So if I invite back our other guest speakers today, just to first of all offer our thanks to everybody today. We have put links within the chat box for everybody, websites, and we've had a few questions that if you're happy for me to put them to you. If anybody wants to make contact to find out more about those last bits that Mark would have shared with us, I'm sure he would be more than delighted to share some of those last thoughts, but there's certainly lots for us to think about and lots that we've learned and enjoyed along the way today. So we've had a few questions in. One of them was to Justin. I think he's had to leave unfortunately, but one was about, do you think we could be able to determine the different plants from the noises they make? So we'll find that out from Justin. I think that will be interesting to know. In my mind, I've got looking at certain plants from the corner of my eye and wondering what they're trying to communicate with me, based on how much I'm flooding them with water or not. But we've had some other questions around the type of material, the best natural material for when designing a path for wheelchair users. Mark, have you got some?
There's a couple you could use, really. I mean, well, there's several, but there is tarmac, and tarmac now comes in various colors. You don't just have to go for black. You can comes in greens, creams, and anywhere in between. But also when you go to, say, National Trust places, you see this sort of sandy pathway. That's called self-binding gravel, and it's basically sort of tiny loose aggregate which gets rolled out with a wet roller, and it flattens it down into this flat pathway. If you constantly go over it in the same position, or you get a kid who's decides that they want to stand there and kick their heel into it, it will dent slightly, but the great thing about it is you can easily replace it and mend it. But another alternative is resin bound gravel, and resin bound gravel is where you have the stone, the aggregate, it's mixed up within a resin, and it's then laid onto a permeable tarmac, and it gives you this finished effect. Or it looks like gravel, but it doesn't move at all, and it's got a really good grip resistance. And if you go for resin bonded gravel, then the gravel is more pronounced, and that way you can get an even better grip. But the only problem with the resin bonded is, unlike the resin bound, it can sort of come off a little bit. So you just have to be a bit mindful of that. And I suppose I just had another thought and it's completely gone out of my head. So those will do for now.
That was very comprehensive anyway. That was brilliant. I'm sure that was more than they'd envisaged. And we had another question from somebody who's been listening around. They have a grandmother who is 91 years of age, who's now using a wheelchair following a stroke. It's left her with little movement on the left-hand side. However, she still very much enjoys her garden and buying plants for others to plant for her. But are there any ideas for more practical ways to ensure that she can still be involved in gardening?
Absolutely. So everyone talks about raised beds, but actually raised tables or mangers are brilliant, because you can get your knees underneath them and you can still plant, veggies and ornamentals in there as well. Sometimes they have sort of a deeper back, which is just beyond your knees. Always think about how far the individual can reach. Never there's no point putting in a bed or a raised bed that's too deep that no one can get to. I would also say that, make sure that there are perching places or spaces for the wheelchair to go, and also make sure that when you have those spaces, that the wheelchair is next to a bench, not in front of. You always see when in parks, a whole load of the time you see a bench, there's a bin either side of it, and the wheelchair has to sit right in front of the person. So make space next to you, because there's nothing better than just being shoulder to shoulder and being able to chat. And I would just say also, just try and involve her in as many things as you possibly can. She obviously loves her plants, so just try. I'm a great believer that it doesn't matter what your level of ability, there's always something that you can do in the garden, and that could just be deadheading flowers on potted plants, or it might be sort of getting your hands into the soil and just kneading the soil. So there are many different things you can do, but the main thing is just to continue doing it.
Absolutely. So we've had a question about bonsai, which I'm not sure if this is something that you're familiar with, Mark. Can I repot my indoor little bonsai now, even though it's been recommended not to repot them until February? It is an indoor plant in a heated flat. Surely it won't know what month it is, ?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. How any house plant, obviously they live in a artificial environment when they're indoors, and sometimes it's hot, sometimes it gets really cool. They may not get the amount of direct sunlight that they may have had before, or enough shade that they might have had in the wild. So even though a plant is in that artificial environment, they do still have their own internal clock. And it might sound strange, but they do know when it is time to rest, i.e. winter time. I would say that as long as there aren't any huge fluctuations in the temperature of the room, then you'll probably be okay to repot it. When you do, though, don't stick it right in front of a windowsill that gets a lot of sunlight. Keep it sort of in indirect light, is what they call it. So it gets light, but it's not sort of in that scorching light. But the main thing, which I think lots of people forget about over the winter time, that lots of people think they just need to keep watering their plants over winter, and actually plants need that rest period. So you shouldn't feed and you shouldn't really water your plants or hold back on the watering. Of course, if they start to droop, then obviously give them a tiny amount, but not a huge amount. So I would say you can probably do it. Advisable to leave it till February, but why not give it a go? That's what gardening's all about at the end of the day.
I like the fact that the plants have an indoor clock. I feel the same as soon as winter starts coming. So I think that's all the questions we had in the chat box. So I'm just going to offer it to anybody who can raise their hand. You can do that via the reaction button at the bottom, just in case there was anybody who was brave enough to actually ask us the questions themselves. Just having a quick look. If not, Mark, is there any last sort of comment that you would make around a kind of a lesson for us all to take away with us today?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that obviously you need to understand the space, and you need to understand the people that are going to use that space. Get as much information as you possibly can. Think about how the garden or the outdoor space is going to be used, not just now, but in the future. Obviously, think about all the different senses and how you can stimulate those senses, but also just have fun. Gardening should be fun. So, make sure that it's a space which is an enjoyable space, but also have those quieter spaces where someone might just want to go off on their own and have a little bit of quiet time. So mix it up, but have fun.
I think that's great advice for us all, isn't it? When thinking about those spaces, that ultimately people are going to experience them and access them in different ways, and to think about that when designing. And as always, experts by experience, involve people in design, and in that way they'll feel fully included and will have the opportunity to be involved in it. I'm just reading something that's come through the text box. Thank you so much, Vitaya. I shall teach students about wellbeing and barriers so much better after this.
Oh, that's lovely.
Which is great. We've had so much positive feedback for all of our presenters, and like to offer our sincere thanks to everyone today for giving their time, from the BSL interpreters to, we've got a last minute question, and it's Dominique, so I'd better make sure that I allow her the floor.
Sorry, yes, it is very, very last minute. The garden around the touch base pairs in Birmingham is likely to be used by children as well as adults. What main differences do you see between a sensory garden for children or a sensory garden to adults?
There isn't
main
really
points.
Yeah, there isn't really. At the end of the day, you still want to have all of those senses. So obviously, you need to be mindful of the fact that children might wander. So you might need to just make sure that, planting need to be secured in some way, or that if there's something that shouldn't be edible, isn't in reach. But other than that, no. I mean, a garden, as I say, doesn't discriminate whether it's on age or background or anything. So, it should just be the same for any age. But I would say with kids, because I've done quite a lot of work with children, especially in schools, is that they really love that whole tasting and smelling. They love that element. So if you can introduce more of that into certain areas, then they'll really love that. And it's a great way for them to learn also where food comes from, rather than, coming from the supermarket in a carrier bag.
Thank you very much. That's really lovely. Kind of fits what I thought, but it's nice to hear it confirmed.
Good.
Thanks so much for your question, Dominique. I think we've had lots of positive thank yous, and really looking forward to hearing more about the project through its design elements. We'll pop in some contact details in the contact box for anybody who's really interested in finding out more about the work specifically around touch-based pairs and how they might get involved, whether that's through volunteering or being part of the design process. There's lots of opportunities. So thank you very much to Thrive, Justin and Mark. I'm sure we're all going away looking at our plants differently and appreciating more the green surroundings that we have. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending today. And as I say, please do get in touch if you've got any further questions.
Thanks, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we can officially say that now, aren't we? We're in December. Christmas tree here. Merry Christmas, everybody.
And happy Hanukkah, whatever.
Absolutely. Everybody welcome. All celebrations welcomed.
Exactly.